I assure you, I was the only guy in America yesterday up 31-0 with money on the Carolina Panthers at halftime that was breaking out in a cold sweat. Yes, I was absolutely having a severe case of agita yesterday watching Carolina up 31-0. I thought, oh my God, the gambling gods are going to do it to me again, because when I hear 31-0 at halftime, the first thing I think back is to that Oregon lead against TCU in the Alamo Bowl. Yes, 31-0 at halftime. And may I just say one more time, 18 yards of total offense in the second half for the Ducks because your quarterback went out. And we know how that one resulted in a triple overtime loss for the Ducks, blowing that 31-0 lead. And then the compound matters, making it even worse. It's the Carolina Panthers. I'm having that deja vu flashback all over again, thinking of Carolina when they were up 35-7 in the third quarter just a month ago at the New York Giants, and they failed to cover that game. Then, just adding to the acid trip that anybody that went to Woodstock probably in '69 probably experienced the same exact thing, less than 24 hours earlier, more agita because of how Aaron Rodgers, a second straight successful Hail Mary pass in the same season. Statistically, what are the odds of that ever happening? And, of course, that cost me the cover against Arizona. So, yes, I had a lot of agita. I definitely was sweating bullets. Now, some of you out there may be laughing. You may be amused. But let me ask you something. If you were on Carolina like I was, like Shawn Michaels was with the $100 max wager play, like, who was it? Gabriel DuPont was yesterday, and a number of other handicappers here at the site. When Seattle got the first touchdown, and then they scored again, and then they scored again, and suddenly they had reeled off 24 unanswered points, and you were looking at an onside kick, and when that ball kind of went up and down, and you were going, somebody please drop on the damn ball, were you a little worried there too? Oh, yes, I do believe so. And then, of course, we had the second game. Listen, I won my money with the Steelers, won the money with the Panthers, and then I gave you the Denver Broncos as a free selection yesterday. Chuck O'Brien also had the first 75-dime play in football, his biggest play so far since returning to the site last month. After going 6-1 with 50-dime plays, including the Patriots on Saturday, he had a big 75-dime play, which was one of the featured discounted plays yesterday on the Broncos. So let me talk about that game quickly here. You know, over the years, I've told you that it's just a joke when people think that you grade games according to the closing price, because did you bet the game right before kickoff, right before the first pitch, right before the opening tip? No, nobody should be grading games based on the final price. That's just ridiculous. Total malarkey. Uninformed gamblers, they assume sometimes they know everything, and trust me, you don't. And I'm not speaking to any of you particularly watching this video report. I'm talking about there's a cluster of guys out there that always think they know more than everybody else. It's just BS. But there's a lot of uninformed people in this industry that will grade games according to the final line. Again, are you betting on the final line? The reality is you have to look at the situation for every single game. And here's the situation yesterday. So you had that game bouncing between 7 and 7.5. Everywhere in Vegas, everywhere in offshore. It depended on when you played it and where you played it. If you were smart, like every single handicapper here at the site, you bought the half point down, you bought the half point up. So the way I look at this game is that if you had Denver yesterday, well, you either won or you pushed. If you had the Steelers, you absolutely won. Now, let's extrapolate and talk about it a little further, because there's a couple other little interesting twists here. Now, Chuck O'Brien went ahead and he had counted it as a push before I even sent out an email to the guys after looking at the closing lines at about 15 sports books between offshore and Vegas, just to make sure that I was 100% right with my conviction, because he personally bet the game at 7.5, took it down to 7. Hey, and how did that game end? You're sitting there and you think you won the damn game, and again in the final minute of play, 19 seconds to go, 47-yard field goal, boom. Costs you the easy guaranteed cover with the Broncos in that one, correct? And, of course, that field goal then definitely guaranteed you the win and got it for you with the Steelers. But O'Brien had gone ahead and counted it as a push, and I respect him for that, because really that was going to be my ruling anyway. Twisting it a little further, as I said, I've often told you that you've got to have two sources when it comes to playing. And yesterday was another case in point. Listen, if you were on the Steelers yesterday, you should have been shopping around and easily got in that half point. You didn't have to spend the extra 25 cents to buy up that extra half point. You didn't need to. You were going to get it automatically. Those big sports books, those couple of big names I've often alluded to over the past decade, that generally you're always paying more for a favorite, well, you were going to get that half point anyway on Pittsburgh yesterday without paying any extra juice. Now, if you were on Denver yesterday, absolutely you should have had a 7. You should have been shopping around for that game because there were 7s everywhere. And you could have bought it down to 6.5 and you walked away with the win. So that's the importance of always having a secondary source when it comes to knowing when and where to place your bets, especially in terms of whether you're on the favorite or the underdog, because bottom line is, if you can walk away and get that half point sometimes without paying anything extra, why wouldn't you do it? I don't care if you're in Vegas and it means you got to go down to the South Point, you got to go to the Stations casinos, where the lines will often be different than they will be over at the Palms or over at the Wynn, for example. Or if you're playing offshore, I'm not going to mention the names, and you play at those 2 big monster sports books that generally you're always paying more for the public favorites, or you're playing at some of those smaller ones that are still going to guarantee that you're going to get paid, which of course is the key with anything. Again, you've got to have a variety of sources. So it was an interesting day. It was a good day compared to how Saturday was. That's for damn sure. Hey, Chuck O'Brien had an interesting thing on his website here. I've got to credit him for it. He said, look at what has happened in the past week with games where the finale was decided in not only the final minute in terms of the straight-up winner, but in terms of money changing hands. It started with last Monday's game with Clemson and Alabama. Clemson's touchdown, 12 seconds to go in the game, reportedly resulted in a $10 million shift in money in Vegas. It continued with Arizona failing to get the cover because Aaron Rodgers in the closing seconds, well, actually his time expired through the Hail Mary, which forced overtime. Arizona laying 7. Suddenly everybody on Green Bay picked up the win. Arizona backers, like me, lose it. And then look at how that Pittsburgh-Denver game ended as well. Hell, you could go back a week further. And how about the Cincinnati game as well? So, weekend number 1 of the postseason, you had all 4 road teams win. Weekend number 2, you had all 4 home teams win. So, we'll continue. No more football talk today. Let's talk a little basketball action. A couple of things. Shawn Michaels, who remains the winningest football handicapper here at the site, with that 100-dime winner yesterday on the Carolina Panthers. Listen, he's made in football $10 bettors over $23,000 over the past 6 years. Today, his first NBA release of the season. It's another 100-dime max wage release. It's just as strong as yesterday's winner on Carolina. In the NFL, 100-dime plays over the past 6 years. 61 wins, 37 losses, and 3 pushes. In college football, 100-dime plays the past 6 years. 23-10. This play is just as strong. You got yesterday's for over half price off. Same thing goes today. You get it for over half price off simply by using coupon code REMATCH. 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 Rematch is that coupon code. Let's get to your complimentary play here. Listen, I've got a big play. It's discounted too. You can find out all your promos, all your discounts, etc. over on the homepage. I just want to get this over with before I start coughing and hacking in your face once more. Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm going to go with them tonight. They've lost 4 straight when you think about it. They lost the final 3 games of the NBA Finals last season. Then they lost again on Christmas Day to the Golden State Warriors. Well, today, I'm going to go with the Cavaliers at home. You know, I didn't need Kyrie Irving and the story that you see across all the news wires saying this is an important game. It's a statement game for the Cavaliers. I could have told you it's a statement game for the Cavaliers. But I think there's a couple of interesting subplots here which make them the play here. Listen, when they met the last time on Christmas Day, obviously Golden State had the home court advantage. You had a Cavaliers team that wasn't nearly as healthy as it is right now. You had Kyrie Irving only playing, I think it was his 3rd game back after missing 6 months because of that fractured kneecap. He only played like 26 minutes. He wasn't that effective in that contest. You also had Iman Shumpert, who had been bothered by a wrist injury. And in that game, he went scoreless in like 29 minutes and missed all 5 of his shots from the field. There were some positives to take out of that game for Cleveland in that particular contest. You know, defensively, They did a very good job. They forced the Warriors into 16 turnovers. They held Golden State to only 41% shooting from the field. They did a great job on the boards. Kevin Love had 18 boards. Tristan Thompson had 10 boards. They had 55 rebounds as a team compared to 49 for the Warriors. They dominated the offensive glass in terms of offensive rebounding, 17 versus just 8 for Golden State. So why did they lose that game? Well, they shot 31% from the field. They missed 25 of 33 pointers from the field. Very next day, they went to Portland, and they got hammered by the Trailblazers. Irving sat out. I mean, it was just an embarrassing game. But since then, since December 26th, the outcome of that Portland game, they have won 9 out of 10. And I was very impressed with the way on a 6-game road trip, they lost game number 5 a couple of nights ago to the San Antonio Spurs. But then they came back Friday night, 24 hours later, and took care of business at Houston, 91-77. So they come back home. They've won 9 out of 10. They won 5 out of 6 on the road trip. I think it's also beneficial that road trip, how many times do you see road trips that are 4 games in 5 days, 5 games in 6 days, something like that? It was 6 games in 12 days. Hell, in this day and age in the NBA, that's like a leisure trip. That's like going on a cruise ship for 2 weeks, okay? So it wasn't exactly a demanding trip. Big revenge spot. I don't have to tell you anything more about that. Bottom line is I think they get the job done here tonight. It's not going to be a blowout. Although they did blow out the Cavaliers last year in the regular season meeting in Cleveland when it's the last time that these two teams were really 100% at full strength. Warriors, hey, they didn't have Harrison Barnes in the first go-round either. But again, I like Cleveland. That's going to be your complimentary play. I wish you well, guys. And we will do this one more time tomorrow. Good luck, everybody.